November 9th, 2025, Houston, Texas. Governor Greg Abbott takes the stage in front of a crowd of 1,500 people. "I will eliminate your property taxes entirely," he says. Applause rises. He launches his fourth-term campaign with the promise of the largest tax cut in Texas history. Here are the numbers: $51 billion. The amount allocated for property tax cuts over 2 years. A quarter of the state budget. 1 out of every $6 or $7 spent goes toward property tax cuts. Abbott calls this the largest property tax cut ever provided by any governor in American history. So what's the reality? What is the average Texas homeowner gain? $500. Annually, $42 per month. $1.37 per day. $51 billion spent. $500 saved. That's the true face of Texas's property tax crisis. Let's rewind. July 26, 2023. Abbott signs the biggest property tax cut in Texas history, $18 billion. Senator Paul Bettencourt goes even further. The biggest tax cut in the history of the world. What's in the package? The homestead exemption increases from $40,000 to $100,000. The school tax rate drops by 10.7 cents per $100 of assessed value. In November 2023, voters passed Proposition 4 with 83.4% approval. Everyone wins. Bills will go down. The Texas miracle will continue. The result? Total property tax collections did not decrease in 2023. Instead, they increased by $654 million. It's worse in 2024. Total property tax collections increased by another $5.4 billion, a 6.6% increase, 1 year after the biggest cut in history. No comment from Abbott. Press Secretary Eduardo Lillomi says Texas invested $51 billion without raising taxes. But Texans are paying more. The Dallas story tells the whole tale. Texas Tribune analysis reveals the harsh reality. A typical Dallas homeowner sees a $310 decrease in the school tax paid to Dallas ISD between 2018 and 2024. Real savings. The state-funded rate squeeze is working. But that same homeowner pays $1,200 more to the city, county, and other taxing entities during the same period. The net result, $890 more in property taxes despite billions in aid. Dallas isn't unique. Harris County raised its property tax rate by over 8% in September 2024. For a $400,000 home, that's about $160 extra annually, just from the county rate increase. Property values in Harris County have doubled over the past decade. Even fixed tax rates are producing growing bills. Abbott's own administration acknowledges the problem. Local governments and rising property valuations are offsetting the aid provided by the state. But there is no solution. The failure mechanism is simple. Texas introduced a 3.5% revenue cap in 2019. Cities and counties were limited in how much additional revenue they could collect without voter approval. But voters consistently approved higher rates at the ballot box. And rising property values allow governments to collect significantly more money even without rate increases. A Rice University Baker Institute study measured the shift. In 2024, Collin, Harris, Midland, Moore, and Smith counties adopted higher tax rates to offset the state's valuation cap. Taxes on properties benefiting from the cap fell by $12.8 million. Those not benefiting saw a $14.2 million increase. Not a net decrease, but a net transfer. The Dallas Central Appraisal District's assessed values jumped from $188 billion in 2023 to $204 billion in 2024, an 8.6% increase. Some West Dallas homes have seen over 1,000% increases in value since 2019. Despite these results, Abbott did not back down. On the contrary, he went even further. December 4th, 2025, Fort Worth. Abbott announces his new plan. 5 main elements. The headline reads, Complete elimination of school property taxes for homeowners. Annual cost, between $17.5 billion and $42 billion. Additional proposals. Cap appraisal increases at 3%, currently 10%. Require a 2/3 voter approval for any local tax increase. Limit local government spending growth to population growth plus inflation, or 3.5%, whichever is lower. Allow voters to petition for recall elections with signatures from 15% of registered voters. Abbott describes homeowners' fears at the Fort Worth event. I know a lot of people who hold their assessment envelopes with trembling hands, afraid to see how much their property taxes will increase. The solution requires constitutional amendments. It requires 100 House votes and 21 Senate votes. Republicans hold only 88 House seats and 20 Senate seats. It seems mathematically impossible. Tax policy experts condemned Abbott's proposals. Manish Bhatt of the Conservative Tax Foundation warns, bringing California-style property tax reform to Texas is not a sensible policy. The 3% valuation cap mirrors California's Proposition 13. Adam Langley of the Lincoln Institute explains the consequences: side-by-side identical homes. One person pays 5 times more in taxes than their neighbor. Neva Butkus from a left-leaning Institute on Taxation and Economic Policy adds, for a state that markets itself as family-friendly, this is quite an anti-family policy. It will create a barrier for young families who are getting married and want to buy their first home. Even Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, Abbott's Republican ally, is openly opposing key elements. Patrick displayed signs at his own press conference. Eliminating school property taxes would require nearly doubling the sales tax from 8.25% to at least 14%. Patrick unveiled a rival Operation Double Nickel plan. It raises the homestead exemption to $180,000 and lowers the senior exemption eligibility from age 65 to 55. Patrick had previously challenged Abbott to a Lincoln-Douglas-style debate. Abbott claims Texas can fund its proposals without raising taxes. We can pay for it thanks to the budget surplus we've built year after year. Our annual surplus exceeds the cost of fully funding the state's education. He told supporters in Fort Worth, we don't need to raise our sales tax. We have the money right now to lower property taxes. Budget experts directly refute this claim. The Legislative Budget Board shows that replacing all school property taxes would cost between $39.5 billion and $42 billion annually. That's nearly the entirety of the state's total $58.8 billion in state tax revenue for 2023. Shannon Holbrook from Every Texan describes the school tax elimination as part of Abbott's platform. It's messaging, but not a realistic proposal. Senator Charles Perry agrees. In terms of what we can do for property tax reform from a budget perspective, we're kind of at the maximum level. The recent surpluses were anomalies created by federal COVID-19 pandemic dollars and sales tax increases fueled by inflation. Now they're gone. Texas has repeatedly attempted property tax reform. The pattern is consistent. The 1997 reform increased the homeowner exemption by $10,000. School taxes continued to rise. The 2006 property tax franchise tax swap followed a Texas Supreme Court ruling. Property taxes exceeded 2006 levels in 2008. The 2015 reform raised the exemption to $25,000. The following year saw a $1.7 billion increase in school property taxes. The 2023 package followed the same trajectory. Despite $18 billion allocated in aid, total property taxes increased. Despite $51 billion committed through 2026, 2024 property tax collections increased by $5.4 billion, 6.6%. Texas Policy Research summarizes the failure. The lesson from the 88th and 89th sessions is clear. Aid without reform is an illusion. Every package to date has been added to a system that allows assessments to outpace revenue growth and allows local governments to raise taxes within legal limits. Two bills, HB 275 and HB 1553, proposed a complete elimination of the school property tax in the 2025 session. They did not even get a hearing in the House Appropriations Committee. Social media reactions capture homeowners' disappointment. One person wrote on X, "You may have given us a bigger cut, but we still haven't cut taxes because our values increased significantly before the increased homeownership exemption." Another attacked Abbott for continuing to tax homeowners on unrealized gains. Absolutely disgusting. The Tribune's analysis of more than 50 property tax bills from 2023 found homeowners initially saw their bills drop nearly 28% from the previous year. However, the 2024 property value increase ate into those gains, with the typical homeowner's bill in some areas rising more than it had fallen the previous year. School property tax collections, which fell more than 10% in 2023, rose more than 6% in 2024. In Dallas' Ledbetter neighborhood, longtime resident Juanita Velasquez worries about preserving her family's home. Owned since the 1940s, everyone is suffering, at least in my neighborhood. A tax advisor reported 500 cases of homeowners experiencing 3-digit, even 4-digit increases despite the 2023 package. Abbott did not directly address why the $51 billion spending provided minimal homeowner relief. Instead, he shifted blame to local governments. Right now, it's very easy to impose higher taxes on Texans without local government approval. The 2026 platform targets the entities he blames, cities, counties, appraisal districts, rather than acknowledging structural flaws in his previous approach. Press Secretary Eduardo Leal frames the criticism as anti-taxpayer. Only in Austin do special interest groups claim that the answer to rising property taxes is more taxes. It's a simple choice: stand with taxpayers or cut them off. Abbott's campaign materials claim he delivered the largest property tax relief ever provided by any governor in American history. Representative Chris Turner offered the Democratic response. Greg Abbott has been governor of Texas for 10 years, and when you look back over his 10-year tenure, it's hard to name any significant achievement that actually benefited the people of Texas. No response from Abbott, just silence. The math is brutal for a typical Texas home worth $302,000. Abbott's 2023 package: approximately $500 in annual savings, $42 per month, $1.37 per day. Texas home insurance premium, $4,585 per year on average, 117% above the national average. 19% increase in 2024. 21% increase in 2023. A single annual insurance increase can exceed multiple years of property tax relief. The savings Abbott provides are wiped out by the rise in insurance and then some, and property values keep rising. Some Dallas neighborhoods have seen 50 to 100% appreciation over the last 5 years. Austin, 40 to 60%. Houston, 30 to 50%. San Antonio, 25 to 40%. Each reassessment cycle makes Abbott's historic relief even smaller. A $100,000 exemption increase loses its meaning on a home rising from $300,000 to $400,000. The Texas Comptroller's December 2024 report shows county tax collections increased by 10.4% in 2024, the highest increase among all taxing entities. No plan from Abbott, just bigger promises. The gap between $51 billion and $500 billion reveals that Texas property tax relief is fundamentally theatrical, not transformative. While the state squeezes school tax rates, local governments raise their own rates. As property values rise, exemption increases lag behind. And each historic package yields diminishing returns as the savings from the previous one erode. Abbott's 2026 proposals: eliminating school taxes for homeowners, capping assessments at 3%, requiring a 2/3 majority vote for all increases, represent the largest expansion yet of promises that consistently fail to reduce actual tax bills. The political math is as tough as the budget math. Abbott needs 12 additional House votes to pass constitutional amendments. This requires either Democratic defectors or successful 2026 primary and general election campaigns to expand Republican majorities. The expert consensus is that the proposals are unrealistic, illogical policy, and anti-family. Still, with $87 to $100 million in campaign funds and a proven willingness to spend on years of political battles, Abbott signaled he would push for his historic fourth-term property tax proposal, regardless of whether homeowners see the promised savings.